The Wind and the Moon by George MacDonald. So, talking about the poet, George MacDonald is considered the founding father of modern fantasy writing. He wrote fiction, poetry, and non-fiction. He also happens to be the mentor of Lewis Carroll. His poem, The Wind and the Moon, is a delightfully rocking poem, and it is wonderful for memorization and recitation. This poem is a narrative poem that tells the story of how the wind tried to blow away the moon. It is focused on natural elements. It personifies the wind and the moon. The poet has very intelligently used the lunar cycle to tell a story. The poem is non-realistic. It has elements of fantasy. It is very rhythmic with 11 stanzas. Said the wind to the moon, I will blow you out. You stare in the air like a ghost in a chair, always looking what I'm about. I hate to be watched. I'll blow you out. The wind blew hard, and out went the moon. So deep on a heap of clouds to sleep, down lay the wind and slumbered soon, muttering low, I've done for that moon. Turned on his bed, she was there again, on high in the sky with her one ghost eye. The moon shone white and alive and plain. Said the wind, I will blow you out again. The wind blew hard and the moon grew dim. With a sledge and my wedge I have knocked off her edge. If only I blow right fierce and grim, the creature will soon be dimmer than dim. Blew, and she thinned to a thread. One puff more's enough to blow her to snuff. One good puff more where the last was bred, and glimmer, glum will go the thread. He blew a great blast, and the thread was gone. In the air, nowhere was a moonbeam bare. Far off and harmless, the shy star shone. Sure and certain, the moon was gone. The wind he took to his revels once more, on down in town like a merry mad clown. He leaped and hallooed with whistle and roar. What's that? The glimmering thread once more? He flew in a rage, he danced and blew, but in vain was the pain of his bursting brain. For still the broader the moon's crab grew, the broader he swelled his big cheeks and blew. Slowly she grew till she filled the night, and shone on her throne in the sky alone, a matchless, wonderful, silvery light, radiant and lovely, the queen of the night. Said the wind, what a marvel of power am I! With my breath, good faith, I blew her to death. First blew her right out of the sky, then blew her in. What strength have I? Moon. She knew nothing about the affair, for high in the sky, with her one white eye, motionless, miles above the air, she had never heard the great wind blare. Children, moving on to the explanation of the poem, starting with the first stanza. Said the wind to the moon, I will blow you out. You stare in the air like a ghost in a chair, always looking what I'm about. I hate it. I hate to be watched. I'll blow you out. So, the wind here has been personified as a man and the moon as a woman. The wind told the moon that he would blow her out because he did not like her watching to see what he was doing all day long, like a ghost in a chair. Here the moon is being compared to a ghost sitting in a chair because she is white and she glows in the dark. It blew hard and out went the moon, so deep on a heap of clouds to sleep. Down lay the wind and slumbered soon, muttering low, I've done for that moon. So here, the wind blew so hard that the moon went behind the clouds to sleep. The wind was surprised at his own power. He applauded himself, for he felt that he had overpowered the moon. The wind slept too, thinking that he had got the moon out of the way forever. He turned in his bed. She was there again, on high in the sky, with her one ghost eye. The moon shone white and alive and plain. Said the wind, I will blow you out again. So the very next day, what happens is, later on the very next day, he saw her again, high in the sky, with one ghostly eye open, alive and shining. The wind's ego was hurt. So this time he was determined to blow her out until she became a sliver. The poet has personified the moon as a beautiful noble queen who looks upon the sky with one white eye. Blew hard and the moon grew dim. With my sledge and my wedge I have knocked off her edge. If only I blow right fierce and grim, the creature will soon be dimmer than dim. So, to polish his bruised ego, the wind put all his might this time to blow even harder. He blew violently all across the world, making loud, shrill, and harsh noises while doing so. He was very confident that his efforts would surely turn the moon dimmer and dimmer day by day. And blew, and she thinned to a thread. One puff, more's enough to blow her to snuff. One good puff more, where the last was bred, and glimmer, glimmer, glum will go the thread. So, the wind continued blowing fiercely and was overjoyed to see that the moon was getting thinner and thinner. When the moon had finally turned thin like a thread, he got pretty assured that just one more puff will blow out the moon completely. A great blast, and the thread was gone in the air. Nowhere was the moonbeam bare. Far off and harmless the shy star shone. Sure and certain the moon was gone. So the wind, with all his determination and energy, put the last blow, and the moon disappeared completely. The stars glimmered shyly, thinking that the moon had done away with the goods. The wind he took to his revels once more, on down in town like a merry mad clown. He leaped and hallooed with whistle and roar. What's that? The glimmering thread once more? So the wind enjoyed himself seeing his wish getting fulfilled, and he started whistling and roaring like a mad clown. Here the wind is being compared to a clown because he is blowing wildly all around in his overjoyed manner, not realizing that the moon was just going through its waning stage and that he was making a laughing stock of himself. But suddenly, to his dismay, he saw a sliver of moon in the sky again. He flew in a rage, he danced and blew, but in vain was the pain of his bursting brain, for still the broader moon's scrap grew, the broader he swelled his big cheeks and blew. So the wind was furious, and his head nearly burst, but it was of no use. The more he blew, the more the moon grew. The wind has been personified as a mighty creature with large cheeks and a brain that is bursting with anger. Slowly she grew till she filled the night. She shone on her throne in the sky alone, a matchless, wonderful, silvery light, radiant and lovely, the queen of the night. So in spite of his efforts to blow out the moon kept growing bigger and bigger. The poet here is referring to actually the waxing stage of the moon. He sat on her throne in the sky, a radiant queen. This is the moon. Said the wind, what a marvel of power I am. With my breath, good faith, I blew her to death. First blew her away right out of sky, then blew her in. What strength have I? Now here the wind badly misunderstood the lunar cycle of the moon, where waning and waxing happens naturally, and felt that he was the one who was doing it all. He thought she was shining because of his effort, and felt proud of his power to blow her out to death and bring her back to life. But the moon, she knew nothing about the affair, for high in the sky, with her one white eye, motionless, miles above the air, she had never heard the great wind blare. So, children, the moon knew nothing of the wind's fury. She knew nothing of the roaring wind. She's unaware of what the wind has been trying to do because she's somewhere high up above in space, above the Earth's atmosphere, where the wind cannot even reach her. She waxed and waned in her usual manner, high above the clouds. She has not heard his roar, for she sat high up in the sky, far above the wind, shining on the earth. The moon is personified as the calm, quiet, dignified queen whose dignity and poise span the sky. So, children, this poem has a deep rooted, beautiful meaning behind it. The poem shows the contrast between the two personalities, the personality of the wind and that of the moon. It implies that wise people who are confident of themselves stay busy fulfilling their duties, whereas the ones with lower wisdom just stay busy in finding ways to show others down. The poem also gives us a chance to pause and think over which of the two personalities would you choose to become? The wind has been portrayed as a selfish, ill-tempered, proud person who lives in delusion, totally ignorant of reality. He takes pride in making himself believe that he is more efficient than others. He also tries his best to show others down, and when he fails, he falsely convinces himself that he is still the best. But the reality is that his presence makes no difference to the stately queen that is the moon. On the other hand is the moon. The moon is personified as the calm, quiet, dignified queen whose dignity and poise is spread in the sky. She does not bother herself with the undignified way the wind kept on overpowering her. She went on discharging her duties peacefully, totally undisturbed by the futile attempts of the wind. So, children, now let's look into the poetic devices used. The first and the foremost is the personification. The wind is personified as a man and the moon as a woman. The moon is personified as the calm, quiet, dignified queen, and the wind is shown as a selfish, ill-tempered, proud person whose presence makes no difference to the stately queen that is the moon. Second is the symbolism. The wind represents people who think that their fury and power keeps others in under control. The moon, on the other hand, symbolizes those who are above petty power mongering and go about fulfilling their roles with their innate power. We also find simile being used in like a ghost in a chair, like a merry mad clown. The metaphor on her throne, the queen of the night. The rhyming scheme, as you can see, is deep, heap, sleep, and it is you can see it all over the poem, beautifully put. We have the alliterations like glimmer, glimmer, glum, go, blue, blast, shy, shone, sure, merry, mad, motionless, miles, which enhances the beauty of the poem. We have repetitions also. She blew and he blew and he blew. Glimmer, glimmer, the broader, blew her, okay, which is used to emphasize on these words. So, to summarize the poem, in this poem, the wind tries to prove her superiority over the moon by trying to blow her out of the sky because he thinks that she is spying on him. Therefore, he huffs and puffs and tries to blow her to bits. When the moon sets, he thinks that he has succeeded. The wind soon convinces himself that he has the power to make the moon disappear and reappear. But the moon, however, is completely unaware of the wind's presence and is simply waxing and waning as per her natural cycle. This narrative poem personifies the wind as an arrogant creature against the moon, which is portrayed as a stately queen. The poet has cleverly made use of the lunar cycle to contrast the behaviors and attitudes of the wind and the moon in a very funny manner. So children, after going through this poem, I think this poem, it forces us to think, to ponder over some of the questions like, why do you think some people always try to find fault with everything other people do? Or something like, does it help to do things to please them? Will they ever be pleased? And most importantly, is it better to be yourself and keep going with what you can?